Good day everyone. I am the first presenter of my group and we're gonna discuss about developing an effective ethics program. So before we go into the deeper topics of it, let me first discuss about the importance of ethics programs. So when it comes to the importance of ethics programs, it helps promote awareness to ethical practices of the company. It boosts the morale of employees to work more effectively and harmoniously. It helps to maintain a positive corporate culture and upholds strong public image. So what I just said, those are just a few things that could really help me define the importance of ethics programs. Well, ethics program is more on conveying corporate value, often using codes and policies to guide decisions and behavior. Not just that, but ethics programs are being implemented in order to help a company reduce its unethical practices, which we should always be aware of. Now let's talk about the responsibility of the corporation as a moral agent. But before that, what is moral agent? Moral agent is anyone capable making ethical decisions and putting them into action. So as a corporation, they are viewed not merely as a profit-making entities, but as a moral agent accountable for their conduct to their stakeholders. This includes employees, investors, suppliers, and government. While for the companies, they are required to obey the laws and regulations that define acceptable business conduct. And for the society, they hold companies accountable for the conduct of their employees as well for their decisions and consequences of those decisions that they have done or made. Let's talk about the need for organizational ethics program. Well, ethics programs help sensitize employees to potential legal and ethical issues within their work environments. And without such programs and uniform standards and policies of conduct, it is difficult for employees to determine what behaviors a company deems acceptable. Not just that, but ethics program is to ensure employees understand its values and comply with its policies and codes of conduct. And ethics programs can increase employees' ethical awareness, participation in ethical decision making, and ethical behavior. And lastly is to promote legal and ethical conduct within an organization. So I just want to share with you a quote that says that when a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower. Well, as you can see, ethics programs are just like that. Well, you cannot really change people. You cannot really control them. So what we do is that we try to fix the environment that the employees are in. That is why we have this set of rules and regulations. We have this code of conduct to be followed. Because this ethics programs will really help the company manage its people and will really help to build a corporate culture within the company. Just wanted to show you this table, and it's about penalties of misconduct or corporate misconduct. So as you can see, there's this accounting fraud, misleading investors, that somehow it has penalty. Well, some corporate cultures provide opportunities for reward when it comes to unethical conduct because management is not sufficiently concerned about ethics or the company failed to comply with the minimum requirements. While companies may face penalties and loss of public confidence if one of their employees breaks the law. Because as you can see, unethical behaviors are really unacceptable when it comes to in the business world. Now let's talk about the characteristic of a strong ethics program. Well, of course, we cannot forget the code of conduct or a written code of conduct. Well, as you can see, this code of conduct is really beneficial to a corporation or a company. Not just that, but in order to have a strong ethics program, we must have an ethics officer to oversee the program and careful delegations of authority, formal ethics training, and rigorous auditing, monitoring, enforcement, and revision of program standards. So what I just said, these are the things that makes a strong ethics program.
Most common observed form of misconduct. As a moral agent, companies are required to obey laws and regulations that define acceptable business conduct. However, it is important to acknowledge that they are not human beings who can think moral issues, because business is not human. Laws and regulations are necessary to provide formal structural restraints and guidance. Employees have a moral obligation to responsibly think through complex ethical issues that contribute to ethical conduct of a corporation as a whole. This illustration shows that the most common observed forms of misconduct of Fortune corporations are personal business on company time with 29%, abusive behavior with 22%, lying to employees with 21%, discrimination with 18%, health or safety violations with 18%, company resource abuse with 17%, and lastly, internet abuse with 17%. We can see that the most common observed forms of misconduct is personal business and company time. The reason why people are committed in misconduct is because they feel pressured to do whatever it takes just to meet the business target. Next is minimum requirements for ethics and compliance program. But let me define what is compliance program. Compliance program is a set of internal policy and procedure of a company to comply with laws, rules, and regulation to sustain business reputation. First requirement is standard and procedures such as codes of ethics that are reasonably capable of detecting and preventing misconduct. The reason why organization establish codes of ethics is because they want to prevent any misconduct in their organization. Second is high-level personnel who are responsible for an ethics and compliance program. Chief Compliance Officer of a company is responsible in overseeing and managing regulatory compliance issues within their companies. Number 3, no substantial discretionary authority given to individual with propensity for misconduct. If an employee committed or violate any rules in their organization, he must undergo due process before giving him a punishment. Number 4, standards and procedures communicated effectively via ethics training programs. Having an orientation before employees' deployment is essential because it is a way wherein they are being oriented and informed by their training directors, employees, and appropriate agents. Number 5, system to monitor, audit, and report misconduct. There should be a committee that will monitor the employees' behavior and work of ethics. Number 6, consistent enforcement of standards, codes, and punishment. They need to promote and consistently enforce the program through appropriate incentives and also appropriate discipline. And lastly, continuous improvement of the ethics and compliance program. Take reasonable steps to respond appropriately and prevent further similar criminal conduct, because there are many circumstances that happen or might happen that are not included in their laws that they should improve. Next is 2 types of control system. The aim of control system is for creating predictability of employees' behavior. First is compliance orientation. Compliance orientation creates order by requiring employees identify with and commit to specific required conduct. It uses legal terms, statutes, and contracts that teach employees the rules and penalties for non-compliance. Compliance orientation is defined to prevent any misconduct in organization, and every employees in an organization should follow and know the rules and regulation. Next is values orientation. Strives to develop shared values. Although penalties are attached, the focus is more on abstract core of ideals such as accountability and commitment. It is the principles of what is right and what is wrong. Instead of relying on coercion, companies' value are seen as something to which people willingly aspire. The primary difference between compliance and values orientation is that compliance orientation is rule-based, whereas values orientation is ethically or morally based. Next is process of establishing organizational ethics program. First is developing organization codes of conduct. Most companies begin the process of establishing organizational ethics program by means of developing organization codes of conduct or formal statements that describe what an organization expects to its employees. Next is appointment of ethics officer. In process of establishing organizational ethics program, it is important that there is ethic officer to serve as the organizational internal control point and responsible for managing ethic issues facing by the organization. And lastly is implementing a training program and communication system. In process of establishing organizational ethics program, it is a major step because it will train, educate, and communicate employees about the firm's ethical standards. This can also make employees aware of available resources in an organization and for them to know the designated personnel who can assist them with ethical and legal advice. Codes of conduct. Codes of conduct or formal statements that describe what an organization expects of its employees. A code of conduct is a written document that may contain some inspirational statements but mainly specifies acceptable and unacceptable types of behavior. Code of conduct defines how companies' employees should act on a day-to-day basis, and also it reflects on the organization's daily operations. This code of conduct is unique to organization it represents. That's all. Thank you.
Good day, good morning mom, good morning classmates. I'm Angelo Tiavier from Room 101 and I'm here to present the Code of Ethics. Code of Ethics is the most comprehensive and consists of general statements, sometimes altruistic or inspirational, that serve as principle and as the basis for rules of conduct. A code of ethics generally specifies method for reporting violations, disciplinary action for violations, and structure of due process. A code of ethics is a guide of principles designed to help professionals conduct business honestly and with integrity. A code of ethics document may outline the mission and values of the business organization, how professionals are supposed to approach the problems, the ethical principle based on the organization's core values, and the standards to which professional is held. Statement of values. An ethical statement that serves the general public and also addresses distinct groups such as stakeholders. Value statements are conceived by management and fully developed with input from all stakeholders. Benefits of having an ethics code. Guide employees in situations where the ethical course of action is not immediately obvious. As for the code of ethics is said to be the basis for rules of conduct. If there is any ethical situation where the employees are being lost, code of ethics serve as guide to correct and discipline them in any chances. Help the company reinforce and acquaint new employees with its culture and values. A code can help create a climate of integrity and excellence. Code of ethics can help a company, in line with the employees, to uphold what a company stands for, that they can't objectify one another based on their different cultures and beliefs. Number three, help the company communicate its expectations for its staff to suppliers, vendors, and customers. A company should be able to conduct a standard where they will set limitations in lines with their suppliers, vendors, and customers. Number four, minimize subjective and inconsistent management standards. A company should have a limit in making decisions where they will not let their emotions control them, and, to be consistent in leading their employees or people in the company. Number five, help a company remain in compliance with complex government regulations. A company should abide the law and follow rules and regulations agreed by both sides. Build Number six, build public trust and enhance business reputations. The company must be consistent of their service to people, and they should protect their image and avoid their illegal transactions inside and out of the company. Sorry. Number seven, offer protection in preempting or defending against lawsuits. Once a company be able to gain a trust of some people or organization, they should give some protection. They should give enough protection rather. Number 8, enhance morale, employee pride, loyalty, and recruitment of outstanding employees. Normalize giving appreciation, and the importance of employees' achievement. It helps them to work hard, which a company can be benefited. Number 9, promote constructive social change by raising awareness of the community's need and encouraging employees and other stakeholders to help. A company should not be the one who needs help, yet they are the one who's helping others. Number 10, promoting market efficiency, especially in areas where laws are weak or inefficient, by rewarding the best and most ethical producer of goods and services. Instead creating another problem, a company should give back a proper goods and service to its people. And now, let's go to 6 values for code of ethics. We have trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. So let's tackle the trustworthiness. Trustworthiness relates directly to ethics on two specific dimensions: integrity and benevolence. In brief, a trustworthy party is one that will not unfairly exploit the vulnerabilities of the other party in the relationship. Respect in all-encompassing and foundational theme woven throughout the code of ethics, starting from the core value of dignity and the worth of persons and the related ethical principle, social worker respect and inherent dignity and worth of the person. Number 3, the responsibility. Of course, managers are responsible for upholding ethical standards in their own actions and decisions. In addition to following the organization's ethical code, managers may be obligated to follow a separate professional's code of ethics, depending on their role, responsibilities, and training. 2, 3, 4. Number 4, we have the fairness. Fairness is treating others in the same fashion that you would want to be treated. Fairness is concerned with actions, process, subsequences that are morally right, honorable, and equitable. In essence, the virtue of fairness establishes moral standards for decisions that affect others. Number 5, we have the caring. Ethics of care, also called care ethics, feminist philosophical perspective that uses a relational and context-bound approach toward morality and decision-making. The term ethics of care refers to ideas concerning both the nature of morality and normative ethical theory. Last but not the least, the citizenship. The citizenship or civic duty component refers to ethical obligations, standard of conduct that establish minimal requirements for ethical citizenship. Civic duties implies obligations to contribute to the overall public good. Civic duties include playing by the rules, obeying the law, and paying all the taxes. That's all. Thank you.
As for the ethics officers, they serve as the organization's internal control point for ethics and provide corporate leadership and advice on corporate governance issues. They have responsibilities such as assessing the need and risks an organization-wide ethics program must address, developing and distributing a code of conduct or ethics, conducting training program for employees, for example, company culture, customer relations, regulatory and compliance training, diversity training, and other responsibilities such as establishing and maintaining a confidential service to answer the employees' questions about ethical issues, making sure the company is in compliance with government regulations, monitoring and auditing ethical conduct, and taking action on possible violation of the company code and reviewing and updating the code. For ethics training and communication, training can educate employees about the firm's policies and expectations, relevant laws and regulations, and general social standards. Training programs can also make employees aware of available resources, support system, and designated personnel who can assist them with ethical and legal advice. Training can empower employees to ask tough questions and make ethical decisions, can clearly communicate the company's values, culture, and policies for dealing with ethical issues to employees, hands-on training to confront actual or hypothetical ethical dilemma, behavioral simulations which give participants a short hypothetical ethical issues, situations to review. The table shown are the key goals of successful ethics training program, which are: first, identify curious areas employees will face; second, provide experience in dealing with hypothetical or disguised ethical issues within the industry through mini cases, online challenges, DVDs, or other experiential learning opportunities. Third, let employees know wrongdoing will never be supported in the organizations, and employees' evaluation will take their conduct in this area into consideration. Fourth, let employees know they are individually accountable for their behavior. Fifth, align employees' conduct with organizational reputation and branding. Sixth, provide ongoing feedback to employees about how they are handling ethical issues. Seven, allow a mechanism for employees to voice their concern that is anonymous, but provide answers to the key questions 24 hours at time. 8. Provide a hierarchy or leadership for employees to contact when they are faced with an ethical dilemma they do not know how to resolve.
System to monitor ethical standards. First is observing employees. Observers should concentrate on how an employee treats an ethically charged situation to decide whether or not he or she is doing his or her job properly and ethically. When training salesperson and employees, many companies use role-playing games. Ethical questions should be brought into the debate, and the findings should be videotaped so that participants and their colleagues can determine the outcome of the ethics conundrum. Second will be conducting internal audits and investigations. Developing ratings on ethical or immoral activities within their firm and market, and where unethical behavior seems to be on the rise. Management may have a greater idea of what kinds of unethical behavior might be taking place and why. It will then be appropriate to revise the company's ethics and preparation. The corporation must therefore report any proven or alleged wrongdoing as soon as possible. The responsible business representative, normally the ethics officer, must advise senior management on how to handle a specific ethical infraction. Third will be circulating surveys. Questionnaires may be used as a matrix in an ongoing measurement of an ethical performance by assessing employees' ethical views of their organization. Managers, colleagues, and themselves as well, as generating ratings of ethical or unethical activities throughout their firm and industry. Fourth will be instituting report systems. The presence of an organizational mechanism that encourages workers to report a wrongdoing is particularly useful for tracking and assessing ethical results. Many businesses provide ethics assistance lines, also known as hotlines, to offer help and allow staff to pose questions or report complaints. Enforcement of ethical standards. First will be the rewards. Employees who follow business practices and expectations are rewarded. As workers follow corporate expectations, their corporate contribution should be recognized publicly by promotions, wages, or other ways. Second will be punishment. Employees that breach corporate expectations, on the other hand, must be reprimanded, transferred, docked, terminated, or even dismissed. Common mistakes in designing and implementing an ethics program. First will be failure to understand and appreciate the goals of the program. Many corporate executives understand the importance of having an ethics policy, but rarely take time to address basic questions about the aims of those programs. And of the most common goals are to prevent and identify unethical behavior as well as legal violations, to achieve strategic advantages through strengthened partnership with consumers, vendors, and employees, and particularly for multinational companies to connect employees through a unified and shared organizational culture. The first mistake that many businesses make when implementing ethic plans is failing to consider and recognize these goals. Second will be not setting realistic and measurable program objectives. Until reaching an agreement on priorities, businesses can elicit feedback through interviews, focus groups, or survey instruments, according to research staff and senior managers. Always realize they are engaging in unethical conduct, but rationalize it as for the good of the business. As a consequence, the goals of an ethical policy may have a certain concrete components. Third will be senior management's failure to take ownership of the ethics program. If senior management do not embrace an ethical culture, it will be difficult to maintain. If top executives act unethically, it will be difficult, if not impossible, to create and enforce an ethical culture. Fourth will be developing program materials that do not address the needs of the average employee. Many enforcement programs are developed by the attorneys to ensure that the organization is legally secured. These services typically produce complicated legalese that only a few people in the organization comprehend. To mitigate this problem, ethics programs, including codes of conduct and educational material, should be provided input from staff around the company, not just the legal department. Fifth will be transferring a domestic program to a firm's international operations. Executives in multinational corporations should include foreign workers as early in the process as possible. This can be accomplished by compiling a list of traditional global management procedures and methods, as well as investigating the corporation's code of ethics in this international setting.